guys, Captain Save. I'm not excited about this one really, don't have much interest, but let's see what this one's about. I was desperate to get out of that fucking movie, dude. Seriously though, fuck that movie. So I saw Captive State, and this movie is just unbelievable. It's there's the good type of bad movies, the good type of bad, like Escape Room. I thought that movie was terrible, but I thought that Escape Room had some pretty entertaining moments, and it was kind of entertaining at times, and that's the good type of bad, if there's such thing. But then there's the bad type of bad, like the absolute worst. And somehow a movie like Captive State fell in below under that category of just absolutely terrible. Like it's just unbelievable how awful this movie truly was. Now, Captive State might just be the most overcomplicated movie of the year. And to be honest, once I walked out of the movie, I still didn't have a good idea of what the movie actually was. Now, just to keep it simple, just to keep the story simple, this is basically an alien invasion story. An alien invasion happens in Chicago that overruns the government. And a few years later, there's this dude who joins a rebellion to go against this government program that is being ran by aliens now all of a sudden. And look, the whole idea, the concept actually sounds quite awesome. And I actually think it's something that would have worked with better writers, a better budget, and a better studio to distribute this movie. Seriously, having Focus Features distribute this movie, and I think they even produced this movie, it's just a terrible idea, because Focus Features is a small studio, and I do respect a lot of the movies that they made, in the past few years. But Focus Features is definitely not a studio that should be handling high concept, sci-fi movies like Captive State. And this movie was made on a $25 million or on a $25 million budget, and for a movie like this, it's not enough. And I'm not saying that the movie needs to have a $100 million budget, but I'm just saying that $25 million to tell a high concept story like this it's nothing. I think that it's a movie that should have been made with at least $60 million. I just can't get around it. I can't get around how completely awful this movie was, especially with a director who actually has some type of experience with Rise of the Planet of the Apes, which I absolutely love that movie, by the way, but the ball was just completely dropped here. The whole idea, the concept is just lost. They did not know how to execute the movie. The opening, the first 2 minutes of the movie were actually kind of cool, but after that, the movie just goes nowhere. The movie just absolutely goes nowhere. Now, I was trying to figure out where this movie is going, but I just came to a point where it was just a mess fire of a mess, and the movie just did not know where it was even heading. The direction is just absolutely awful, and there's not one redeeming quality about the way the story's headed, or the way the movie's just headed in general. And don't give me that bullshit. Don't give me the, oh, this movie was just being too smart for its audience, or the movie requires your full attention so you could understand the movie. No, that's just bullshit, because the movie just it takes the story and everything, and it decides to pretty much go nowhere with it, and it just becomes one hell of a lazy movie. Like, you can tell that the writers behind this movie just got really lazy, and they really didn't know how to execute this movie. It just felt like they were just throwing quote unquote smart dialogue in around the script just to make the audience feel like, oh, what I'm watching right now is actually kind of smart, and it just really isn't. It's just a very underdeveloped movie with very little explanation, and this movie just completely lacked detail. All the characters, and I cannot exaggerate this enough, all the characters in this movie are just bland, two-dimensional, flat. Just take a sheet of paper and look how flat it is, and that is all the characters in this movie. There's just nothing to these characters. There's not one here, There's not one quality or traits or even any development going on between these characters so that I could root for them. And it doesn't help when there's a new character being introduced every 5 minutes and it just all of a suddenly just loses focus on, not just the other characters, but it also loses focus on the story. And I assume that in the end of the movie, just everyone was meant to have a purpose or a contribution to the story, but none of that was made clear through the movie's, story or, whatever this movie was trying to do. The writing all around is just horrendous. Again, it's just something that's just trying so hard to be one of those smart dystopian sci-fi movies. And, but it does not work. And the dialogue is just, it's really bad. I cannot stress this enough. I cannot stress about enough how bad this movie just truly was. And, you could tell that this movie was on a small budget when out of all the 50 different characters in this movie, John Goodman was the only good character. I mean, his character was awful, but he was actually okay in this role. But can we please stop casting Machine Gun Kelly in movies? He clearly cannot act. And the twist in the movie is just abysmal. To begin with, the setup in the movie was never even there. It was barely there. So, with that twist being made in the end of the movie, it just feels uneventful. The twist in the movie just does not feel earned at all. It just baffles me how awful this movie truly was. I actually had a terrible time watching this movie. And the audience seemed pretty cool. Like, the audience was actually reacting. They were reacting to the trailers. They were laughing. They were screaming to the trailers. They played that one James Gunn movie. I forgot the name of the movie. Oh, Brightburn. Yeah, everyone was freaking out after that trailer. And I was like, okay, so maybe the audience is at least going to be entertained during this movie, and the audience is going to play a huge part to my enjoyment of the movie. The audience was dry as fuck. I was looking around and everyone in the audience was just asleep or completely bored out of their damn minds, or most of them were even confused as well. I had a terrible time watching this movie in the theaters, and never ever in my life have I ran out so quick out of a movie theater once the credits started rolling. There's just, up to, right now, I'm still trying to find a redeeming quality about this movie, but I just can't. It's just so damp, it's so wooden, it's such an ugly film as well. I wouldn't be surprised if this movie is pulled from theaters in a few days because of, not just because of how people are reacting to this movie, but because of how poor this movie seems to be performing at the box office, and it's actually well deserved. With that being said, this movie gets my lowest rating, worst of the worst, and I'm gonna give Captive State an F. I actually haven't walked out of the theater this furious since probably Slenderman, which I think I said was the worst movie I've ever watched, and I still stand by that. But Captive State is pretty damn close to being one of the worst movies I've actually no, it is one. It's one of the worst movies I've ever seen. Anyways, have you guys seen Captive State? And I'm hoping you guys didn't. I'm hoping you guys just stayed at home. I don't know what to say. I really did not know what to say. But anyways, yeah, have you guys seen this movie? Let me know in the comment section down below what you guys thought about it. I'm actually curious because a lot of you guys seem to absolutely hate this movie. And a lot of, or not a lot, but there's some people that are kind of defending this movie, which I could understand why, but I don't see why. But anyways, yeah, thanks so much for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys later.